order paper. Gareth Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And it's a pleasure to follow the Right Honourable Gentleman for Halton, Price and Howden, who I thought did a superb job in setting out the strategic argument for more funding for special educational, for those with special educational needs. I hope that we will get some hint from the front bench opposite that the Chancellor of the Exchequer has heard the calls of parents across the country, and that both more revenue funding will be made available in this area, but also crucially more capital funding. And I wanted, Madam Deputy Speaker, to raise a series of parochial questions which speak to the more strategic arguments that the Right Honourable Gentleman opposite nonetheless made in the opening speech. At the outset, can I say that I completely recognise from my own casework the stories of parents and the difficulties they faced in getting support for their children with special educational needs, and I'm sure that's the experience of everybody across the House. And I also want to acknowledge at the outset the skill and commitment of those who work and teach children with special educational needs, particularly so in my own constituency, but across the country as well. Teachers, I think, are remarkable at the best of times, but they and other school staff, I don't think, are valued enough. But they're fundamental to our country's future and fundamental to the future of the vulnerable young people that we are talking about today. I'm fortunate in Harrow to be blessed with good special schools. Alexandra Special School in South Harrow in my constituency is particularly good, but we also have Shaftesbury School, Kingsley and Woodland Schools, who are also very effective schools, and I commend their staff in particular to the House. But also I acknowledge as well the impressive performances of Senkos and other school staff in mainstream schools across Harrow, supporting young people in mainstream school settings. Madam Deputy Speaker, there is a clear need in Harrow for a new 300-place special school in Harrow. The four special schools that I have outlined in Harrow face serious financial difficulties, and more investment is needed to support those young people in mainstream Harrow schools get the support they need. Harrow's seen a 55% increase in the number of young people with EHCPs over the last 5 years. Harrow Council's own estimates suggest that that figure is likely to increase by about 100 a year going forward. The four special schools in Harrow have between them just under 500 places, but we're already at 700 young people a year from my community being placed in special schools. So the Council are already reliant on finding placements for vulnerable children with special educational needs in schools that are out of borough, further away from family settings, and in private special schools. Indeed, as I understand it, Harrow already has a much greater reliance on private SEN schools than the national average. There's very little space to expand the borough's four existing special schools. And Harrow, unfortunately, is surrounded by neighbouring boroughs that are also seeing very significant increases in the number of young people with significant special educational needs. So the pressure on the private schools and independent schools that cater for those with special educational needs that Harrow might draw on is also rising fast too. What that means is that Harrow is having to see a very high usage of its higher needs budget being spent on significantly more expensive placements than would be the case if an additional special school was able to be built in the borough. And as I understand it, my council are now worried that there will be further significant fee increases in the schools that they're having to use, placing even greater pressure on the existing special needs budget. Harrow has been turned down 3 times by the Department for Education for an application for funding for a special school, even though the department accepted that the bid was an effective bid and was worthy of funding, had funding been available. Hence the need for more capital funding to be urgently needed. But I would just lastly underline the point that the existing specialist schools in Harrow, and I suspect across the country too, are facing serious financial problems already. The national network of specialist providers, I understand, revealed that some 80% of special schools responding to its survey reported a deficit budget in year 1 of their financial cycle, rising to 90% in year 2 of their financial cycle. The average size of that deficit, £145,000 in year 1. It has huge implications for those school budgets, and that needs urgently addressing in the forthcoming budget as well.
Chair of the Education Select